DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy, family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Against the Boards. I'm your host, Chamberlain Bauder, here to break down another week of hockey and lacrosse in Western New York. As we get into the hockey talk here first, of course, we all know the Sabres season came to an end on Monday night in Game 7 against the Montreal Canadiens. Before we get into anything, let's just preface. If someone told you that the Buffalo Sabres were 1 game away from an Eastern Conference final this season in September, you might have hit them because you found a defensive as a joke. Now here we are. So we have to preface everything within that, right? But ultimately the road ends in Buffalo against Montreal, and the Sabres are now going to look to reload and get ready for another season. But because of something like that happening, you learn a lot about a lot of guys. You see the best in some players. You find out where that potential really lies, and you get certain players that now might never see the ice in Rochester ever again. And it should definitely be talked about. There's some free agents that we need to talk about and contracts expiring this season just in the AHL that aren't getting talked about on the internet right now by anybody because they're only worried about the NHL re-signing situations, which makes sense. But we're going to break down who's an RFA, who's a UFA this summer for the Amerks, as well as who loses waiver eligibility after this offseason. A couple of guys on that list actually end up losing their waiver eligibility. They're all important. Some of them, I don't know how much they'd end up being in Rochester anyways. But let's get into all of that here today. Obviously, everyone knows in Buffalo, the big talk is Alex Tuch and then Bo Byram getting extended this offseason. But honestly, those aren't guys that I feel like we need to talk about here that much at all. We're going to take that focus on Rochester a little bit more here today. First, we'll take a look at restricted free agents for this offseason. These are all guys on expiring contracts right now, whether that's a 1-year contract that they signed. Some of them it's a 3. Most of them it's a 3-year or a 1-year. So Trevor Kuntar and Zach Jones both finishing a 1-year contract this season in Rochester. So we will 100% be keeping our eyes peeled for both of those guys to be getting re-signed. But the unfortunate thing that always ends up happening, you think back a couple of years, Arttu Ruotsalainen realized the opportunities that he had in other professional leagues where he could make more money based on the season that he had in the AHL. I don't know if that's what Zach Jones looks like, but I know that Zach Jones being one of the best assisters in the AHL this season definitely gives him some value. And an ability to maybe sign a contract and go play for an NHL team. So that could happen, or it'd be really nice to have him back in Rochester next season. That one is one I'm definitely keeping my eyes glued to, is where Jonesy will be. Trevor Kuntar, honestly, same thing, but it feels a bit more like he can truly still gain a lot being in Rochester right now. I don't know if that will be the case, or if that's, everything in the AHL every year, it feels like ends up just being up in the air and you don't know how it's ultimately going to go. The whole roster could change. Obviously, the ECHL affiliation is changing, so that will be something to watch. There's not much to talk about there other than that the Jacksonville Icemen are no longer going to be the ECHL affiliate for the Sabres and Amerks, so they're looking for a new one. Heard some talk around Twitter that Adirondack potentially has a team that would be in need of an affiliate, but then the teams that were around the Long Island, New Jersey area were all getting filled already. So that'll still be up in the air. We'll keep our eyes on that once we know. It's not really something that you like. That doesn't feel like something I need to hunt rumors on. I'm more so just going to wait until it comes out and let you all know what that ultimately is. But then taking a look at the other three restricted free agents with contracts expiring this season, we've got Beliveau, Novikov, and Nadeau all expiring this season. Obviously, Nadeau and Novi both prospects that have now been on this Amherst squad for 3 years. Nadeau feels like really just this has been the first year that he's been starting to get those chances and those opportunities. And now with a guy like Consta going up and a guy like Osti going up, and just creates more opportunities for him to fit into a top line in that group. Rosie leaving, obviously. He still needs more opportunities in the AHL. I just don't know if that's necessarily what kind of a re-sign contract that one ends up looking like ultimately from the Sabres perspective. Through 3 seasons, has he given them enough? Not sure, but ultimately in hockey, I feel like when you get guys that are that young, as long as they have the ability to gain size and speed and strength through physical growth of muscles, then you've got a guy that you can still continue to develop as a prospect and bring up the ranks still as you go. Those are the 5 restricted free agents. Now there's 3 unrestricted free agents for this Amherst squad. One is really an unrestricted free agent for the Sabres. I just still don't necessarily completely understand why Josh Dunn just hasn't played in Rochester at all, and ends up being a guy that just sits in Buffalo and watches a lot of hockey and gets in there every once in a while. But they have 4 fourth-line centers on that roster right now. I mean, between Beck Malenstein, Tyson Kozak, Josh Dunn, and Sam Carrick, you literally have 4 fourth-line centers on your team, and that doesn't even include Peyton Krebs, who in the last game that this team just played was the fourth-line center. So, I mean, in my head, somebody's got to go to Rochester, but it also is one of those spots where with Josh Dunn, it's kind of like, does he go elsewhere now that he's seen as an NHL skill caliber center player, right? On those bottom 6 spots, does he go and get a contract with another team? Kind of wouldn't blame him if he did, honestly, right? And then it's Bayreuther and Lecision are also both unrestricted free agents at the end of the season. For me, with Lecision, that's one of those you hope that you can bring him back, but we saw this year, right? We didn't get that many returning centers, it felt like, or you did, but then so many of them transitioned to wing. It was like all of a sudden at one point in the summer, you went, who's going to play second line center for the Amherst? And then you got to August and you went, oh, who are they going to scratch at center for the Amherst? AHL can change just like that. The last area to talk about when it comes to personnel aspects of things is the waiver situation. It's not new information to anyone that Devin Levi is going to be a waiver eligible player in the 2026-27 NHL season, and that is going to be something to keep an eye on. I mean, there's so many goalies in that pipeline already and in the system. I mean, you look over to you still got Scott Ratzlaff that's got to get some games in. You've got Leinenen. You've got Colton Ellis, who is trapped in the NHL right now because any team would take him on waivers. There's so many goalies in that Buffalo Sabres system right now. Becoming waiver eligible is one of those things that it's like, in my head, it maybe just makes the Sabres say, okay, you're going to stay in Rochester. Just be the Rochester starter all year, like he was this year. At least right now. But at the same time, changing back and forth between 2 goalies throughout your playoffs, why not find out early in the year, or try to find out early in the year what you've got in the goaltending room? Now you've got to just be super conscious that none of those 4 guys between Luukkonen, Lyon, Ellis, or Levi will be waiver eligible when it gets to that time. Not a decision that I would like to have to make at all. That sounds like not the dream in any way, shape, or form. Completely polar opposite of, locking up 4 defensemen for the next 5 years, which is what they want to be able to do when they get Bo Byram. But yeah, the goaltending room gets interesting. Zach Metza, though, also a guy that after this season will end up having some waiver ineligibility with his contract coming into his final year of that 3-year contract that he did sign. I mean, Metza to me is the start of the conversation really of, talking about players that maybe are not in Rochester as much next year. Man, is it unfortunate that they gave him the seat in Rochester, and then immediately after that he goes up to Buffalo, ends up playing over 40 games in Buffalo, was ultimately, in my mind, when I look at him as a player this year at 27, in those two, just in the playoff games that he was playing in, I had not seen someone as comfortable as the fifth defenseman for the team play. He wasn't playing outrageous minutes. He was playing like 8 minutes in each of those two games, but he's a confident hockey player, and he also plays with a leadership when he's on the ice that is very comforting to watch. He is a calm player on the ice. He plays calm, and he doesn't do stupid things with the puck. Which you'd think the second part is like every defenseman in the NHL should do stupid things with the puck, right? But it's not always the case. He, to me, made an argument at the least that he should be battling for a spot every single week on the third pair of defense for the Buffalo Sabres. At least in my mind watching it. Nah, do I get paid by an NHL front office to scout? No. So that should be taken into account. But ultimately, he played that well, and there was a reason that they called him up to play and played him in those final two games of the playoffs. Speaking of another guy who ended up playing in final games of the playoffs and playing well, Constantinius, definitely not seeing Rochester again. I mean, he scored in 2 consecutive games, ultimately was the fill-in for losing Noah Ostlund to injury that Buffalo needed. Obviously, the lines get all changed around, and you're not running out that kids line of Doan and Benson winging Ostlund, but my favorite line in the last couple of games of that playoff series was easily Zucker, Quinn, and being centered by Hellenius. He played like an NHL center as a rookie in the NHL, in the playoffs. It was awesome to watch. He played with so much poise, and given now though, there's room to grow for him, no question about it, but he showed them all the signs that they were looking for out of a player of his caliber and where they drafted him. And now he's got the chance to just kind of roll with it and absolutely sky's the limit. I mean, that's the coolest part to me about playoffs. You look at a guy like Zach Benson, a guy like Josh Doan, guys like Consta Hellenius and Jack Quinn, Noah Ostlund, these young players that have the skill and the skill to be some of the best hockey players in the world show it when they get to that stage, or when they get in a situation where they're playing the same opponent 6 games in a row and they can break things down at another level. It shows the hockey IQ of players like that, but it also shows the grit and the drive and the hustle, and it was awesome. Now, a couple days removed from it, you can stop being disappointed and sad that the Sabres lost in Game 7 of that playoff round. Let's be so honest. It was the battle to see who gets to get whooped by the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Final. Right? At least we're going to have an awesome Stanley Cup. That we do know. The finals, if it's the Avs and the Canes, will be electric. No doubt about that. That will be an awesome series to watch. But that is going to do it for me before I pass it over to Spencer, or that's going to do it for Amerks. Quick plug for Knighthawks. Be sure to head to our website, rochesterknighthawks.com. Read up on Hawk Watch. It's going to be coming out every week. That will keep you fully posted on where any Nighthawk that is playing this summer is playing. So be sure to go and check that out on our website. We'll be updating it every single week with stats and highlight points from the seasons of the summer so far for guys. I know Tyler Biles already snagged an assist in a Six Nations game, and Smitty already scored in their 12-0 shutout against the North Stars on Monday, which was outrageous. But yeah, definitely tune into that. It's going to be some fun content coming and keep you up to date on where the Knighthawks are as the season goes on. And with that, big thanks to our producer, Paul Russo, for keeping us up and running. And I'll pass it over to Spencer Conley for the rest of Against the Boards.
Welcome to this week's Nighthawks section. It's going to be a quick one. We're just going to go over three things. We're going to start off with the Summer Hawks and where guys are playing, how they're staying active during the summer months. Then we're going to do a reaction to Toronto winning the Cup. And then yesterday, Taylor Jensen named Team Defensive Player of the Year or Team Defensive MVP, whatever your heart desires. All right, first, we've got a lot of Nighthawks playing some summer ball. So we're going to start out in the PLL. Nighthawks forward Graydon Hogg playing for the Canadiens, midfielder. And now this is the wild card. Lefty forward Blaze Reardon. He is a goalie in the outdoor game. Many of you know from his time at Fairport High School and the University of Albany. An all-state level goaltender. He is with the Carolina Chaos and has been his whole career in the PLL. Next up, we have Jake Pacino with the Denver Outlaws. He is the best long pole defender in the outdoor game, and it is not even remotely close. What he can do with the long stick, it's incredible. I highly recommend, if you ever see an Outlaws game, look for a short number 88. He is small, but in the outdoor game, my goodness, it's not even funny to watch. We got a pair of water dogs in Philly with Thomas McConvey and Zed Williams. Zeddy, it's his first year with the Water Dogs, so definitely interesting watching him play in the outdoor game. The last three, all with the Utah Archers, got Mitchell Dunham, Connor Fields, and Nathan Kapp. Mitchell Dunham had a very good first week of the season. 2 weeks ago, I did not get a chance to watch the last weekend of games, so hopefully he had another good week. I know Connor Fields had a big weekend as well. And now we're going to move to the MSL, Major Series Lacrosse, Canada's East Coast Senior A League. Two guys are on the three-time defending Mann Cup champion Six Nations Chiefs, Tyler Biles and Ryan Smith. A pair of Nighthawks playing in Brampton, Riley Hutchcraft and Josh Medeiros. One guy with the Brooklyn Lacrosse Club, and that is Mr. Kyle Waters. And then the remaining three, all a part of the Peterborough Lakers, Matt Gilroy, Brad McCulley, and Adam Thistleway. Now the catch with that roster is Mike Hazen is the head coach of the Lakers. Bobby Keast is the defensive coordinator for the Lakers as well. Keast are still with the Nighthawks organization, but Mike Hazen is not after the news at the trade deadline. Now with Senior B, this is honestly same skill level, but it's guys that want to play at home, don't want to be traveling. Taylor Jensen is in with the Tonawanda Braves. Jensen played with the Lakers a couple of years ago, I believe. But again, Peterborough is not the closest to Rochester, where Taylor is one of the local guys, so it makes sense for him wanting to stay home. Only having to drive to Buffalo makes a lot more sense than driving up to Peterborough during the week. And then Cam McLeod is with the Edmonton Miners as a goalie, just like how he is with the Nighthawks. So those are your Summer Hawks. Next, we have Toronto winning the Cup. I will say Halifax looked good in this series for about a total of 30 minutes. They looked really good in the first half of Game 1 that was in Hamilton. And then at halftime, Toronto just flipped the switch, and from that point on, the rest of the series, it was Jover. Looking at this sheet now, in Game 1, Toronto won the second half 8-2. Not much else to be said. They really dominated that second half. and ended up winning Game 1 by a final score of 13-11. CJ Kirst, the Rookie of the Year, with 4 goals, 2 assists in Game 1. Sam English, who is the Finals MVP, had 2+3. Again, these are rookies. They're top 3 point getters, all rookies. CJ Kirst with 6, as we said. Sam English with 5, like we said. And then Owen Hiltz, a Syracuse boy, 2+2 for 4 on the night. It's unfair. And offensively for Halifax, it was Cody Jamieson, Jason Knox, and Clark Peterson, all with 4 points to lead the T-Birds. Now moving on to Game 2. This was a total domination by Nick Rose, especially in that second half. Halifax scored, a minute 28 into the second half, and then didn't score another goal for the rest of their season. They scored the 1 goal in the second half. They were shut out for the remaining 28-32 of the ballgame. Nick Rose was a wall. And just like in Game 1, it was the rookies showing out again. Owen Hiltz, 3+1 for 4 points. And he had 5 loose balls, which is very good for a forward. As I said earlier, Nick Rose was phenomenal. 34 saves on 41 shots, 82.9 save percentage, only 7 goals against. Warren Hill was pretty good again in this game. Warren Hill had a really good series, but just not enough offense from his teammates to keep them in these games. He had a 78.4 save percentage in Game 2. Game 1, he had a 79.3. So again, he was really good, just not good enough to play with a team like Toronto. That's Toronto's 7th championship, so they have now tied Buffalo with 7 championships, unfortunately. And now we're going to move on to, biggest news. Taylor Jensen wins Defensive Player of the Year for the Knighthawks. Now, the stat I'm about to bring up could be a little misleading. Jensen is already top 10 in franchise history in 3 categories, but again, franchise history as we mean from 2019 to the current day with the team that relocated to Halifax. So Jensen is 4th in caused turnovers with 50, 6th in block shots with 43, and also 6th in loose ball recoveries with 299, only 1 away from the big 300. Jensen also has 7 goals and 16 assists in his 49 career games. And it's just really good to see a guy like Taylor Jensen winning an award like this. He was an undrafted free agent. This is a guy that Dan Carey brought in a couple of years ago after his collegiate career at RIT was over, and he's turned him into a star. And there's no other way to put it. And that's that. Oh, one last thing is May 19th marked the 14-year anniversary of the 2012 NLL Championship game, where the Rochester Knighthawks defeated the Edmonton Rush at home for the championship in 2012. I'm going to pull up the stats from that game. Knighthawks went down big early, and then they were down 5-1 at halftime and put on a fierce second half comeback to get themselves a win. 9-6 final in the championship. Big day from Cody Jamieson. Johnny Paulus had a couple of goals. No Mercy Micah Kersey, that famous nickname. He is now the current head coach with that franchise. And Matt Vince was phenomenal. An 8-1 second half comeback, and the Knighthawks never looked back, hoisting up their 3rd NLL title in what would be the first of 3 consecutive championships. They would be the first team in NLL history to do so. And that is it for this week. Next, we're going to get back into the MSL. Looking at stats from this first week of play, the Chiefs got I think it was 12-0 win in their first game of the season. The Lakers, you're going to be seeing this on Thursday, so the Lakers play tonight against the Chiefs. That's going to be a nice matchup for Knighthawks fans. With all of those guys, you're going to have 5 Knighthawks going head-to-head against each other. It'll be interesting to see the stats and results from that game. We will see you next week.